Hi there, we're going to try something new. I wanted to fill out a page or a spread in my Wanderlust Passport, and I figured I would do it in real time with you so you could see my thought process on how I work through my layouts on my pages, and maybe I'll just share some stories about some of my time in Iceland, which is what we're going to be documenting in this video today. If you got any questions or feedback, leave them in the comments. But for this, we're going to start with a page that I've kind of already started, and we'll just hop in, finish this, and then we'll work on the next page. So before I kind of dive into what we're talking about as far as some of the fun things in Iceland, I'll give you a lay of the land on how I think about my layouts. So you can see here that there are some pictures, there's some large text, and then there's little bits of text. So sometimes when I am getting ready to write in my journal, mind you, I'm not doing this in real time, right? Like I've come back home from my trip and I'm thinking about what I want to put inside my travel journal. I'll actually start with photos. Photos help me determine the things that I want to remember, and then those are the fun things that I can talk about. So I've started out here with my layouts, I've got my photos in, and now I'm just filling it in with the storytelling. You can see here, I actually messed up on the spelling of something. So instead of using whiteout or just leaning into it, I decided to cover over the whole thing, and I'll go over it with a white pen later with the correct spelling. Does it look great? No, but it's just for me, so I don't really care. In fact, there's a major spelling error for Eyjafjallajökull, which is on the page next to it. I left out a couple consonants because the Icelandic language is very tricky. So I want to talk about some of the fun stuff we did in this video, but I'm kind of scared to butcher the names because the language is just so cool. It's actually relatively easy, but it just is spoken so fast, and there's just so many letters crammed into a word that I'm a little bit timid to try and pronounce them for you here. So just know that the language is beautiful. So one word I do know how to pronounce is Eyjafjallajökull, and that's mainly because I love the movie Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and part of that movie features this volcano. And so this volcano erupted in 2010, and some people remember it because it made major news worldwide since it completely shut down air travel in all of Europe for like 5 days. And I think it was like millions and millions and millions of dollars in the economy, like hundreds of millions of dollars in the economy just went to a grinding halt. So it's really famous for that. And the type of explosion, it was like a pyroclastic, I think that's the right word, but it's not like molten lava. It was all pulverized rock. And as a result, it like took out a huge chunk of the earth. What I wrote here is 180 million cubic meters of solid rock just pulverized and put into the atmosphere and just sprinkled all over the country. So whenever you see anything that's black in Iceland, when you're on glaciers and you see this dirt, just know that those are from volcanoes, which is like pretty crazy. So my husband and I love to go to really geologically interesting places, and so this is our second time in Iceland, and we absolutely love it. We might even go back a third because the island is small, but it's really mighty, and there's just so much to see. So you'll see here that I like to color code sections because when I'm writing in my journal, I'm never writing like a long novel that flows. It's just kind of tidbits of information, funny moments from certain memories. And so it's really disjointed. And when I'm writing it down, I'll sometimes color over the text so that that one block of text isn't necessarily related to the next block of text. Some of it are funny stories, some of it are interesting facts that I wanted to remember. And so that's why I kind of break it up that way. So here you've seen I taken the white gel pen, gone back over the area that I scribbled over because I made a mistake. And with all gel pens, sometimes you got to give it a couple coats. So this is where I am, just layering in a little bit more ink so you can see what I am writing. Another cool thing about Eyjafjallajökull's eruption was that it's actually a glacier. So it caused some incredible flooding and basically wiped out huge sections of the mountainous area around it. So they have some photos of what the area looked like before and what it looks like now, and it's just crazy insane, the power of some of these volcanoes. So at the top section of every Wanderlust Passport spread, you have an area where you can put kind of the important data points of any particular excursion, activity, adventure. So city, state, conditions, longitude, latitude. Since we were kind of doing this tour and we were hitting a few places, I really just wanted to highlight the valley that we were in and then the different areas that we are going to see. If I had the coordinates for it, I can also go back and just do a drop pin in Google, but I've gone and entered that information in for that particular activity. And since we're kind of carrying on, I don't necessarily want to fill out this top section all over again. So here I am struggling with some washi tape. So I like to put washi tape on a little card like that when I'm traveling so I can have a few different options with me. Then I just shove that card in the back of the book. There's a little back pocket for some stickers and stuff. So here I am taking my piece of washi tape and I'm just covering that section because I know I'm not going to fill it out. And, I'm always playing with different ways to put photographs in. And sometimes when I'm printing photos from my camera roll using my Instax printer, they're going to be landscape, they're going to be portraits. So sometimes having different options is nice, and I like to kind of play around with how I'm going to lay things out. I don't know if you can tell what that photo is, but it is a bomb lentil soup. I didn't even know I liked lentil soup until I had this lentil soup. So we had to stop at this place called Volcano Hut, and I wish I could paint a picture for you verbally that would really describe how crazy this place is. So this tour that we went on goes to this glacier, and you have to drive through this valley of these monstrous mountains, and they're not mountains like you might be familiar with when you think about driving from the Bay Area to Lake Tahoe. And if that makes no sense to you because you aren't from California, sometimes when you look at mountains, it's like a long drive from the base to the summit. Well, these volcanic type mountains and ranges, they're completely vertical. So you're almost like on a fjord, but on land. So these volcanoes just carve these huge chunks of earth out, and you have these complete vertical mountain ranges. And so you're driving on these riverbeds that are called F roads. So F as in Frank. So there's one road that goes all the way around the island in Iceland called the Ring Road. And that's kind of the one that's maintained. Then there's some other side roads that take you to different fjords and different peninsulas. But if you want to go inland, you have to take these F roads, and you can only access these F roads if you have a 4x4. And I'm not talking like a Volkswagen Golf with all-wheel drive. These cars are totally built for these roads. So they're vans that have, 50-inch wheels. I don't even know 50-inch wheel. I don't know anything about cars, but they're huge wheels, like monster truck tires, and they're lifted because these roads are not really roads. They're just these suggestions of roads. So rivers run through them. They become rivers. There's large ditches. It's all rock. There's nothing about it that's even remotely paved. And some of these roads look really narrow, it's a very clear path. And some of them are as wide as 5 football fields. And it's just this open riverbed that you're driving on. So we took this van and we went to all these remote places that we could go and hike. And we had to stop for lunch at this place called Volcano Hut. And so we're driving in this open riverbed like valley in between these, mountains that look like something out of a fable. And there's just this one tiny sign in the middle that just says Volcano Hut, 10 kilometers to the right. And we're like, okay. And our driver, going full speed, takes the hardest right turn. I could just hear the rocks flying out from under the car. And all of a sudden we drive into this little tiny crack in the mountain. And nestled at the bottom is this little hut. And it's a campsite for people to go and camp, because Icelanders are like next level and they will camp in freaking blizzards and high winds. And then it had this little tiny restaurant, and there was one guy working in there, and they made this lentil soup. They gave you a piece of carrot cake and then this like piece of white bread with rock hard butter. So you have to like spread this rock hard butter on the bread. Just rip the whole thing up. And then it came with this red pepper pesto. And let me tell you, when it took me to like a whole other level, my body transcended. I don't know if it was because I was so hungry from just being active all day, or if it was just that good, but it was one of the best meals. Being freezing and outside and hiking all day, getting a cup of warm soup or a bowl of warm soup is just freaking amazing. So here I am just making a quick doodle. I really wanted to try and capture the scale of this place, but it's just so hard. It literally is like something out of a movie. It just doesn't seem real. You just feel like you're a miniature thing in this giant, large scale environment. So here is Eyjafjallajökull, the glacier. It's coming down. There's the mountain. And that little tiny black box that I drew, that's a volcano hut. That's where we had lunch. And then we had our little tiny van, and we had to just drive like literally through rivers. Like, we're not driving through creeks, like full rivers that are going like, really fast. Some of them get really quite deep. And to watch our driver pull up to a river at, 90 degrees and then like look for where, because it's one thing to go in the river, he has to look for an exit point. So he's just sitting there constantly monitoring the water, looking at the water patterns, figuring out where to go. And when we were driving through, he kept saying, I was here 2 days ago and it looks totally different now, because the weather is so chaotic that the roads, everything is constantly changing and moving. If you drove one path out, if you're coming home, like it could be completely gone. So having that expertise of a local to really like look at everything and keep us safe is very, very cool. Another thing that's awesome is when you get to go inland, you actually get to experience the seasons. So everyone knows that Iceland is pretty green. Like, think Greenland is full of ice, Iceland is full of green. But it's also pretty barren because of all of the volcanic activity. But there's a lot of beautiful moss that grows. Everything in Iceland looks fuzzy because it's got moss and grass and all that stuff. But like before the settlers came, it was actually all covered in trees. And now Iceland is almost treeless. They were just due to deforestation from the Vikings, as well as just like the crazy ass like climate and weather. So to go inland, you actually get to see a lot of the trees. So all these mountains are also lined with these beautiful orange, red, green trees just from the seasons. So that was really cool, because I don't think I would have ever expected to see that really anywhere else on the island, but it was just so cool. At one point we were walking through and I just felt like we were like in Virginia or something. It just was so unreal. Okay, back to what I'm actually doing here. So one of the things I love to do is have giant chunks of lettering to kind of call things out. That prevents me from having to do a lot of excessive writing. Sometimes I just want to be reminded of something. So instead of writing a whole paragraph about the colors and whatnot, maybe I just want to write fall colors, and that's the thing that's going to help me remember. So I love to use Tombos. Tombow dual brush pens are sort of my go-to. They're really easy to use. They come in lots of great colors, and They're just pretty affordable, and if you're learning how to draw and learning how to hand letter, it's a great pen to grow with, because even as you get really experienced and a lot more comfortable and develop more skill, they're still really, really great pens. So I like to do this sort of ombre with the lettering. I'll color it in, and then I'll go in with a darker color and just fill in the base. And then I'll just doing some outlining and some doodling just to make this section pop. And you'll notice with my style of journaling, it's kind of hoarder-ish. Like, I don't like empty space. I don't like it neat and tidy. I just sort of love having the page sort of scream at me, if that makes sense. So I'm just writing a little bit more about the fall colors and just how beautiful it is. When we arrived in Iceland, we actually landed right as Hurricane Fiona was ripping through the eastern part of the island. So one thing I didn't realize is when you have a hurricane system in the Atlantic, you think it goes up, maybe turns into a tropical depression, tropical storm, it hits New York. No, once it hits like Canada, Nova Scotia, it sort of picks back up again because of the water. The water around Iceland, if I remember correctly, is like actually not that cold. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. But either way, when we arrived in Reykjavik, there was like all these alerts that the whole entire east coast of the island was pretty much just shut down. And we later found out that the hurricane force winds were really, really bad. So we got really lucky that we missed that. But we ended up kind of getting extra lucky because as we were leaving, the remnants from Hurricane Ian were starting to hit the island. But what that meant was we got to experience all sorts of weather. So when we landed in Reykjavik, I had no idea. I had all these alerts about this hurricane, but it was sunny and beautiful and warm, and it felt amazing. It still felt a little bit like summer. But then as we kind of went through, it was just pouring rain. You couldn't see the sky. So, and then we got to experience snow and a blizzard, like complete whiteout conditions. So we got a little bit of everything, which I think was really, really cool. So to experience all 4 seasons in a single trip, I think we're pretty lucky. So here I am again, color coding the section so you know what text goes with maybe which call out. And I'm just putting in some photos from another part of our drive. And going back to this whole idea that I like the page to scream at me, I'm filling in sort of this negative space with the word volcano huts that I'm just going to letter over. So I printed this photo and I wanted to write down where it was, and you will see that about a couple letters in, I've realized that I have overcommitted, and what I'm about to write will in no way, shape, or form even remotely fit. Pretty optimistic here by the second M to only then realize that this is not going to work. And you'll see the word that I end up writing, and I don't know why I thought I could fit it in there, especially coloring it in. I started to lean into it at this point. And then I was like, no, this isn't going to work. But, mess ups are fine. This is just something for you. This turned out to be a pretty big mess up. So I'm like, how am I going to fix this? So I ended up just covering it with another photo. This isn't the photo I was going to use. I still need to print one, but I'm using another picture as a template just so I can figure out how much writing room that I have left. You'll see just to the left, I have a photo from my phone, and that's the name of the valley and this kind of area where we went hiking. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll either write the name in like a note of where we are and, screenshot the coordinates. Sometimes if they have a placard that has information on the place, I'll then just take a photo of that. And then that way I can look up the coordinates, I can Google the name, I can research it if I want to. Some places in Iceland, they have placards everywhere so that you can just learn about the nature, the area, what makes it significant or important. So there's just a lot of cool educational stuff all over the island. I really, really dig it. So this is just my, quick and dirty approach to how I structure my passports. I'll do a few more of these. I have a lot of pages that I need to fill out for my passport, so I would love to have you come and hang out with me. Maybe I'll talk in some of them just to give you a little bit more information, or maybe it'll just be a draw with me, so I can be your virtual desk buddy and we can just quietly work together. But if there's anything that you want to see or you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to share more. Filling out these Wanderlust passports have been such a cool part of my life. Not even just because I created this. I was using a system like this long before I made this product. And if there were a fire, these are the first things that I would grab. And it's cool to kind of look back and see all the things that I did, considering I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. So if this is of interest to you and you want to see more of these videos, please let me know. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you really dig it and you want to support a small business, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. So thanks so much.